Welcome to part 3 of the comparison of the Zojirushi and the KBS. So this has been a fun little series that I've been doing because these were the things I was looking for when I was trying to decide, which bread machine I wanted. So if you haven't checked out part 1 where I do like an in-depth look at the two bread machines and how they work to actually cook bread, I'll link that below. Definitely go take a look. Then part 2, I did the dough function where we were doing the pizza dough. Turned out delicious as always. Love being able to use this and make great pizza. And part 3 is actually going to be cake. I am going to do a banana bread, essentially a banana walnut bread in the KBS and the Zojirushi. I have never made banana bread in either of these. I've always just hand mixed it and baked it in the oven. So this is going to be a learning experience for me as well to see, does it actually turn out better than what I do normally? But we're gonna get these in and see how they work in the cake function. Now really quickly, the KBS, it has, not in here, let me go get it. Found it. It has a nut releasing compartment that actually goes into the top, and at the right time it clicks, pops open, pops open the button, this opens up, drops the nuts. I've had issues in the past using it, so we're gonna try it again and see how that goes. The Zojirushi does not have a nut dispenser, so it says to go and add the nuts once it is beeping. The one thing I don't like about that is I have to listen for that, so it's not just like a sit it and forget it type thing. I will have to wait and listen for that whenever the beeping starts to know to go add the walnuts. However, last time I used the nut dispenser on my KBS, a nut fell into the heating element and actually burned, messed up the bread. It smelled like just burned. It just smelled burned, and it tasted burned also. So is it better to not have it or to have one that maybe doesn't work as well? I don't know, since it was the first time, if it may have just been user error. We're gonna try it again and see. So I am actually going to be using a recipe that I found for the Zojirushi. It is from the Zojirushi site. So I'm gonna use that in both of them and just see, because I want it to be as fair as possible. So we will use the exact same recipe and we will try it. So I've got my bananas, got my eggs, they've been resting. I'm going to go ahead and put all this together and see how the banana bread turns out. I am very excited. Okay, so first things first, you'll see that the KBS only has 1 paddle and the Zojirushi has 2 paddles. The Zojirushi is also a lot longer, you'll see, than the KBS bread pan. So I do think you can do a lot more dough in this one. But for this, since we're doing cake, I'll be interested to see, what that kind of looks like. Now, with bread machines, you actually want to put all of your liquids in the bottom and then all of your dry ingredients on top. So for this, I'm going to add 3 eggs that have been beaten. Now, I actually did a little research on the preheat function for the KBS because I noticed in the last video it says preheat, but it doesn't actually do a preheat. Also, we're doing 1 cup of bananas, mashed, very ripe bananas. Anyway, the KBS, they consider the first mix and rise per Google. That is kind of the preheat. So if you have water or liquids, I would suggest to warm it up. Okay, they each get 1/4 of a cup of oil, and I am using olive oil. It's just a preference. Now it calls for 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and I use my mom's vanilla that she makes every year. This is actually from 2022. She makes a new bottle each year. It is so amazing. This is the best vanilla, hands down, that I use. But she's gonna start doing some fun vanillas, so I may try to film that when she does it, but this is the vanilla we use. Now it calls for 1 teaspoon, but I always put a little extra vanilla, so I'm gonna do 2 teaspoons. I don't know. I love vanilla so much. Okay, we're gonna do 3/4 of a cup of sugar. Seems like a lot of sugar, but we're gonna do the recipe the way it says. I don't usually love using that much sugar, but 'tis what it is today. And then 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I actually think I'm going to level this out a little bit more. That banana is just kind of sitting in the middle. There we go. I don't want it just piled up, so we'll just mix that just a little bit. And I am not touching the bottom of the bread pan with my fork. No metal on these. Okay, 2 cups of flour, and I'm going to use all-purpose flour. I usually make this with freshly milled flour, but since this is testing and I've never made it before, I want to do it by the recipe and not potentially alter it because I don't know, the exact amounts with doing freshly milled flour. But if this goes well, I will absolutely be making this with freshly milled flour. Now for the KBS. Flour complete. All right, so 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and I will link this recipe below. 3 teaspoons of baking powder. Check the recipe. 3 eggs beaten, 1/4 cup oil, vanilla, bananas, flour, baking powder, baking soda, sugar, and then, salt. See, that's why you check. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. All right, I'm going to go put these into the respective bread machines, and then I will come back and get the walnuts ready for whenever the beep for the Zojirushi goes off, and then putting them in the walnut dispenser for the KBS. Okay, we are back at the Zojirushi. You want to make sure it snaps twice. Close it, plug it up. So if you look at the functions on the KBS, it does have a jam, a cake, a sourdough starter, and a homemade. So if you're just looking at this and you are, going through the cycles, you don't really see, you see the arrows up here, but what I did not see is the arrow. Let's see, once I get to it, down here. Do you see it right there? Saying that it's cake? Yep, that was quite difficult to see. I'm going to run it on this cake, but you barely, if you lean over, you can see that arrow pointing to the cake. We are going to start this one, and then I'm going to get everything in the KBS and do its cake function. Now for the KBS, this is a lot easier in my opinion. I just know I need to go to 10, 10, and I know that I am where I'm supposed to be. So I'm going to go ahead and put this, I need to pull it out so I can actually get it under the cabinet. So that's where my walnut burned last time I did it. So we'll go ahead and put this in, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the walnuts so that I can put it where the little walnut dispenser is. And this one only takes 1 hour and 33 minutes. So I have a little bit of time if I want them to come out at the same time. Okay, the recipe calls for 1/2 cup of nuts, and I'm going to open the nut chamber and put those in, just like that, and then we'll go put it into the KBS. Okay, so when you put the nut compartment into the KBS, you're going to want to make sure that the black side where you put the nuts is facing the door, because this is the door that opens to allow the nuts to fall. Also, this is the little button that you want it to click when appropriate, and this is where it's going to pop out to open the door. So when you put it in, you want to make sure that that is lining up with that. So we're just going to snap this into place, good and tight, and then you literally close it and click start, and then it should work. And we will check the nuts to make sure that it does not fall on the side, because I don't want these to get messed up. So we'll be back. All right, so I just wanted to check and see how it's doing. It's definitely mixing it well, except for there's still some on the side, and I think that's just a common issue. So I'm just going to scrape down the sides super quickly and make sure that everything is very well incorporated. I do this on the KBS also, so whoops, I guess you couldn't really see what I was doing. I do this on the KBS also. So, all right, we will wait for the beep to add the nuts to the Zojirushi. Okay, you hear it beeping? I hope you can. And it says add, so we know. So I'm going to open this up and go ahead and add the nuts. That's not too bad, but I will say I had to rush, but it's a decently long, like it's giving me a decent amount of time letting me know. But I did have to stay in the kitchen for that, whereas the KBS, supposedly I do not have to do that. Okay, the KBS just finished. I'm a little bit annoyed because the nuts didn't release. I Googled it, said it was supposed to. I don't know. It is in there properly, but did not release at all. So, oh, let me turn this off. So yeah, this one will not have nuts in it, which is okay. My best friend's daughter doesn't like nuts, so this will probably just go to her, which is fine. But I did want to note that on the cake setting, it did not release. So I was not able to test that. So I'm going to pull this out and let it cool down for about 10 minutes until I pull it out of the bread pan. Now the Zojirushi still has 20 minutes left on its cycle. You can see all those beautiful nuts in there. But I did start it before and it still has 20 minutes. So we will pull this out in a little bit. Okay, we are now complete on the Zojirushi. Let's take a look. It got so much darker. Like, I almost want to say the KBS doesn't look completely cooked. This is so much darker. I'm gonna pull this one out, let it cool 10 minutes, and then I'll pull them both out of the pans and show them to you. Okay, so here is the difference in the two. You can see how much darker this one is versus this one. This one almost looks a little bit underdone, to be completely honest. And this is the KBS. And I wonder if I should have clicked 2-pound loaf on this. I don't remember doing that. So I may actually just redo the KBS altogether with the nut function, making it a 2-pound loaf, and make sure that this isn't user error on my part. But I do want to say the KBS the Zojirushi looks way better. So I'm gonna pull this out, and I may run to the store and get some more bananas and see about redoing this one. We'll see. Okay, so the banana bread has come out for both of these. I think the Zojirushi, there's a little bit of flour on the side, but I don't think that's that big of a deal. I think the Zojirushi did a beautiful job as far as like the outside and the way the bread turned out, just looking at it. I have to admit, I'm kind of disappointed in the KBS. Now that could be my fault because I think it defaults to a 1.5-pound loaf instead of a 2-pound loaf, I think. I'm going to try this one more time, scrape down the sides and, see if maybe it was just me, but the way this looks on the outside, the fact that it didn't cook all the way in the middle and that the nuts didn't dispense, I'm a little bit disappointed. I cannot lie. I am going to put this in the oven at 350 and see if I can salvage it because I don't want to waste it, but we will be trying one more time to see if maybe it was just me, because it could have been me. Okay, I'm gonna put this in the oven and see if I can salvage it. Okay, so I have cut the Zojirushi and I've cut the KBS. I'm gonna be honest, the inside of the Zojirushi looks pretty dark, whereas the inside of the KBS looks pretty light. However, I did have to put this in the oven for 15 additional minutes at 350 degrees. So this did not completely cook in the KBS. Now the nuts did disperse in this one, did not disperse in this. Maybe that's why. I don't know. Maybe cake is not the best thing to do in the Zojirushi. I'm going to cut this up and taste it, but as you can see, the top of this still didn't cook all the way right there. And then on the Zojirushi, you can see the top is a little bit lighter than the bottom. I saw that a lot of people prefer to mix it in the bread machines and then bake it regular in the oven. I'm going to be honest, I think it turns out better when you just do it by hand. I'm going to try it a different way with the KBS and see if it turns out better. But the way it looks, the cake function was not my favorite. But let's taste it. Okay, I'm going to taste the KBS. Now remember, this one does not have nuts in it, and I did have to bake it twice, but it actually tastes pretty good. I'm not gonna even pretend like it doesn't. Definitely tastes like banana bread. I do think it's a pretty good recipe. It's very good. It has a little more sugar than I want, but overall, that's pretty good. The crust is good, but like I said, it's hard to say because I had to put it back in the oven. I will just have to redo it and then tell you how it tastes, but I was able to save this. It is pretty good. Zojirushi, also good. A little bit drier. That's probably why it's darker. It's definitely not as moist as the KBS. It's hard to even compare because I feel like that's a disadvantage that it went back in the oven and didn't cook anyway. So I'm just gonna actually compare this to when I make it homemade. I do think it's a little bit dry. It's very fluffy. It is a little bit more like bread than cake. Let me cut in the middle and see. Like, that was the outside. All right, here's a little piece from the inside. Yeah, it's still a little bit dry, and it's almost burnt tasting. Like, it's not, but it's very cooked. Like, there's no moisture left in it. It's not bad. Sadly, I probably prefer the taste of the KBS, even though I had to cook it differently. So honestly, when it comes to banana bread, I probably will just do my normal recipe in, you know, by hand and just bake it in the oven. Could I do this in a pinch? Yes. Do I think the Zojirushi turned out better? Taste-wise, no. But the actual, like, it becoming a banana bread, yes. Okay, I let my mom taste this, and we have some opinions on the Zojirushi. We kind of wonder if you did it the cake version on the light crust, if this would have worked better. However, if you have a function, I should be able to click on it and just do it. Especially using a Zojirushi, like, recipe. And my mom agrees, this one almost burned. Like, it's almost where, like, you don't want to eat it. And I just feel like if you're going to do a cake function, it should do a cake function. Now, I obviously have my issues with the KBS, but I do think the Zojirushi, I mean, it overbaked it. And that was the cake function, so just something to note. Anyway, we will skip to future Jessica and see if doing a different recipe of the banana bread with the 2-pound loaf in the KBS works better.
Okay, so we are going to try this again. It's pretty early on a Saturday. I did have to ripen my bananas. I read that if you put them in a paper bag with an apple, they would ripen much faster, and these definitely did. This has been about, I don't know, 2.5, 3 days. You can see they were like green, and I just put an apple in it, and I mean, they're still not super ripe, but they're usable for the banana bread. So I'm going to do exactly what I did last time, except for a few different functions in the Zojirushi and the KBS, and see if the banana bread turns out just a little bit better. And maybe it was user error, not bread machines. Okay, so everything is in the Zojirushi except for the nuts. I am going to select the cake course. All right, so I'm on the cake in medium. I want to change the crust to light. So I think this is going to give it the best shot. We're going to try the cake with the light, so maybe it won't burn. And this is 2 pounds because that's what the Zojirushi Home Bakery Supreme does. Okay, so the KBS is in, the nut dispenser is in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it to the cake. So I'm going to click menu until we get to 10 for cake. Then I am going to, it doesn't give me the option to change it. Okay, so then I'm gonna make this crust dark and give it a chance to cook a little bit longer. And then when the Zojirushi beeps for me to put the nuts in, if the nuts have not dispensed out of this, I'm going to open that manually and put them in there, and we'll just know that on the cake setting it does not work or doesn't release the nuts. I googled it, it said it was supposed to, but it didn't last time. So we're going to get started. I'm also going to scrape down the sides on both of them. I just wanted to make sure that I said that. But that's something I would do with the bread also. This is just something I do, but I'm going to make sure that I really scrape down the sides and give them both a really good chance. I do want to show the KBS and just how much the side isn't needing. I don't think that would, like if I just left it alone, I don't think it would get that. So I am definitely scraping on the side, but I do think it was a lot more than the Zojirushi. Okay, Zojirushi is beeping and saying to add. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Okay. Now, the KBS has not said anything. It's just in the second stir, I guess. I am going to go ahead and add the nuts. It did not release, but I can at least show you. I have used it with bread and it released, but what it's supposed, oh, there it goes. What it's supposed to do is just pop open and release. And I just want to say the Zojirushi does give a lot of time
for you to add, it's still beeping, and I was able to do everything I needed to with the KBS, and it's still letting me know that I have time to add. So you do have a decent amount of time to get whatever you're adding into your cake in there. Sorry, I do have a head cold, so I am pushing through, but these definitely turned out a lot better. So this was on the light crust. I haven't cut into it yet. Once it cools, I'll be able to see how it did on the inside. And then this was the KBS. You can see it's still, even with getting the sides down, it still had a little bit of flour, like pushing the sides down. It still had a little bit of flour. Still, I don't know, doesn't look totally done on the top. But I will say, looks a lot better. So we'll cut into these once they cool, see what the inside looks like. Yeah, if these don't turn out okay, then I'm gonna say the cake option is just not for me. So I cut into the KBS, and as you can see on top, let me set it down, it did not cook all the way through. It is literally raw to the touch. So I'm going to cut the top off. The bottom is fine and eat that, so just not to be wasteful. But I probably won't be using the cake function for the bread machines, if I'm being honest. This is the Zojirushi we did on the light, and it's still got really dark and it's really light up here. It's edible. It doesn't taste as burnt as the other one, but honestly, I would rather just mix it. Like, I mean, it's not that hard to mix banana bread. Maybe a regular cake would be different. I just, honestly, I can't say I like the cake function for either of them. A little bit disappointed in both of them. So if you're trying to do cake, my suggestion would be to just do that the regular way, mix it, and put it in the oven.